I've left a few items out on the table to show you how easy it is to get started. The main thing you need is a good frame. So in this case, I've got a 2x1, I call it, a 2x1 planed frame, really good joints. That's the main thing. You don't want your frame to go out of kilter on you when you're weaving, because a lot of pressure is put on it when the warp goes on. So get yourself one of these. That's the first thing you need. Not expensive item at all. After that, the main thing you need is a good warp. Now I use cotton thread. This has to be very strong. Make sure it doesn't break when you pull it taut. It can be bought in any of your local wool shops. This one I got in Roscommon. It needs to be nice and silky and soft. Tapestry weavers in general use this warping cotton, it's called. It comes in different sizes. 6s, 9s, that refers to the amount of threads that are spun together to make it strong. So I'm going to use this one. It's called 6s, and that's the one we'll put the warp on with today. I buy it in Weaver's Bazaar in England, and they come, as I say, in different weights, different sizes. Unfortunately, we cannot get this product in Ireland at the moment, but you can buy your local cotton in your shop. Then after that, for the weft, you need wool or any kind of yarn really. It can be acrylic or it can be pure new wool. I have a selection here of bobbins that I've made earlier. I'd always set up a lot of bobbins before I start a project. Or again, you can go to your local store, €2.50, €3 for 100 grams of acrylic and acrylic wool mix. For children, this is ideal because they get a pattern without having to make a pattern. It just comes itself. So that's brilliant. So now we'll get started. Using the cotton for the warp, I usually put something like this into a container so it won't roll all over the floor. So I'm going to just leave that there now. We need to set up markings on the frame, and that's just to give us spacing. So I usually use for beginners 6 ends per inch. I'm using inches for the simple reason that I know how many threads need to go into each one, because it's how I learned myself all those years ago. This frame is 16 inches wide by 20 inches long. So the inside measurement is 12 inches. So that's perfect for my ruler. So I'm just going to lay that down there now, edge to edge, and mark inches 1, 2, 3 all the way across. I've already done the top, so we can get started on that soon. All the way, inch marks. Now that's too much for a beginner to weave. It would take too long. So I'm going to set up a warp which is only 4 inches in width. So to make it easy for yourself, put a little X, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll know exactly where to start and where to end. So I have an X here and an X here, giving me the 4 inches I need. The warp then thread is taken, and you just wrap the thread around like this, hold up your frame and make a double knot. Really easy. Then pull on the cotton to make sure the knot is not going to rip, and wrap it back down around the end of the frame. I have to put this through here now. Okay, down to your first inch mark on the bottom. Wrap back up around, and this time we want to put what I call 1 on the line and 2 in between, which I'll show you now in a second. So there we go. That's what I mean by 1 on the inch mark and 2 in between, and then 1 on the next inch mark. So that way then you have 6 ends per inch when we do the next stage. So stage 1, putting on the warp, is what I'm doing right now. Keep wrapping it. You notice I stand up to do this, and I hold the frame against my hip. That gives me a good action for wrapping and winding. Now it's very important to put the warp on correctly, because if anything is wrong at this stage, the mistake will carry on all the way through the weaving. So take your time at this. I'm pulling it quite tight. It's taut, and I'll show you how you measure that in a minute. Just go like that, and there should be a nice little bounce on the warp. Now I've come to my last mark. So I'm just going to hold it there where I finished and cut the warp thread. Now this is where this one can get a bit loose, so just be careful with that. Pull it around and then go really tightly on that last one and make a knot. Swing it in around there, up, and a second knot. And that's the warp on.